Well, hello everybody. It's Christy with Creative Profits Academy. I'm here in my kitchen where I'm getting ready to shoot a kitchen gadget for one of my suppliers on Amazon. And I want to show you a few techniques that I've learned in the process of shooting a video. This right here is a pasta attachment that can go onto my Vitamixer, and I'm going to be making a pasta dish with this. And oftentimes when I do a kitchen gadget, I try to find some kind of a meal that I can make with it. So in the process of making pasta, I might throw something with the pasta to kind of show people techniques with not just using the item, but a practical way of making a meal. And that tends to get more interest when you can do that. Also on your YouTube channel, people love quick recipes. So if you could throw a recipe with a kitchen gadget, that's a good way to get good rankings on your video on YouTube. But I want to go over right now some specific techniques you need to look at when you are shooting or introducing a product. I want you to see something about this box. Now, here it has some really nice photos, but on the very top of it, we've got a SKU and an address. And even though the rest of the box looks pretty good, Amazon is super picky about any kind of product shot that includes a box that has any kind of SKU. And so when I shoot this, when I introduce this, I'll have to hold this at an angle where this top part doesn't show. And also when I do the opening of the box, some suppliers will ask for a video of actually unpacking the product. And if that's the case, you have to be very careful that you do not show any kind of label or SKU, even a product SKU on the side of a box. That's a professional box that goes with the product. They will bar that. They won't accept those videos. So you have to be very careful when you're shooting the video. The other thing I found with compliance with Amazon is if you're shooting anything outside and a car drives by, they'll flag the video because a car's license plate, even though you can't read it, it may be in the distance. Just the fact that the license plate flashed by on your video, even though you can't read it, doesn't matter. If that portion of the car shows up in the video at all, even just anything close to what could be a license plate, they will block the video, and you'll have to do like a zoom in technique to try to get that car out of the background in order for your video to go through compliance. So those are two things you got to really watch out for are SKUs, labels, and the other thing with the labels too, a shipping box. If you've got a shipping box that something comes in and let's say the product doesn't really have a fancy box like this, you'll want to be careful with just the color of a shipping box because sometimes Amazon, any writing on the box will think that it is a SKU, or they'll think that the black lettering somehow is personal information for a label. Who knows? I don't quite understand why a lot of my videos get blocked if they have a shipping box in it, even when there's nothing showing, but they do. So what I do in those situations, if I have to do an unpacking video, is I'll put everything out and maybe have the box kind of slightly to the side or in the background where I make sure no black lettering or any SKUs could possibly be seen, just to kind of show that, yeah, it came out of that box without showing enough of the box for Amazon to block it. So those are just some little tips to know when you're starting your video. Now, as I get ready to do this product for my supplier, I want you to notice something about the kitchen. I don't know if those of you who might be photographers, you probably already see it, but some of you guys might not know. When I'm thinking about the setting for a product, I'm also thinking about any kinds of things that might be in the background that can cause a distraction. Right here, if you look at this particular setting, I have a towel that is nice and dark. It goes nicely with my black oven here. But right next to it, I have this white towel. And I don't know if you notice, where does your eye go when you look at the background? If you've got a black oven and a white towel next to it, it automatically draws your eye away from the subject. And so I want you to think about that when you're thinking about your setting. What do you have in the background that could possibly cause a distraction? If you've got a towel that, like a white towel that contrasts with the background that kind of draws attention, get rid of it. You don't need it in the video. Look for something that's dark enough that doesn't draw your eye away and actually kind of goes with your decor and your background. The other thing I suggest is look for anything that's messy. Again, anything that's out of place or doesn't quite fit in the background. Even to the point where, like, I have a toaster oven over here. I don't know if you guys can see it on the screen, but that toaster oven has a cable, a power cord, that likes to get in the background of my photos. I don't know, we're making toast, we move it around, and then that power cord likes to come out. So one of the first things I check when I'm going to shoot a video in my kitchen are things like that: power cords, utensils that weren't put away, a kitchen counter that's not clean. When you have kids, that can be a challenge. So you know what that's like. Those are all the things I try to do to eliminate any distractions in the background so that there's more of a focus on me. I also look at lighting and the time of day that I shoot the video. So right now I'm shooting in the afternoon. I have an afternoon sun that comes into my kitchen. And so I like to shoot a lot of my kitchen gadget videos right at this time of day when I have the afternoon sun coming in, and it's before dinner time. So if I have a clock in the background, it's kind of an appropriate time. 3 or 4 o'clock is a good time to start thinking about dinner and dinner prep. So I keep in mind the context of my item. And when would people be looking at maybe making pasta for a pasta dinner? It would be around this time in the afternoon. So my time in the afternoon also coincides with the lighting that comes in my windows. It brightens everything up and it makes for a better video presentation for my product. So those are some tips that I do, and I hope you find them helpful. In the next section, I will show you some of my editing techniques, some of my shooting techniques of the actual product. You can look and see examples that I do. And then, of course, you can look to replicate this. One also word, you might be wondering, do you have to get a really fancy camera for all this? And the answer is no. Cell phones are pretty good. And I'm using, believe it or not, an S10, which is an older model of the Android Samsung phones. You can get those pretty reasonably. You don't have to do an S10. iPhones are great too. They produce pretty well. And if you have some of the techniques I'm going to show you, you could pretty much do everything with a cell phone. So for entry point, if you get good lighting, you wait till your lighting is just right to fill out your face and your background to where it's not too dark, not too grainy, and you think about all those things. Or you change your lights in your room out with LED daylight spectrum light bulbs. The LED daylight are really good because you'll get a lot better color with your product when you're shooting. Because if you shoot a product with yellow light, it's going to put a yellow tint on the coloring, and the pictures will look a little funny, or the item will look a little funny. When you go to editing, you may not notice it, but people will notice a difference if you have light, bright videos, because your lighting, you've given attention to that, and you bring daylight into your images as much as possible. The coloring will be better, and your suppliers will notice that quality and tend to want to give you the better priced products to promote. So those are some of my tricks, some of the techniques, and now we'll get into actually shooting the video. Oh, and one more thing. I don't know if you noticed this, but if you look carefully, it looks like the countertops and the cupboards here are not exactly level. And what that is, I have my phone level, but when you have to shoot at a little bit of an angle, it tends to cause your lines to go a little bit crooked or skewed. It's an optical illusion, but it happens when you're filming. I have a small kitchen, and currently right now, my camera, when I have it all the way out like I did to try to show you the room, because it's shooting at an angle, because I can't push the camera back and get it straight on, it looks kind of crooked. Like pieces are, the cover's not totally level, the countertops aren't totally level. That is the cause of an angle shot with the camera. If I have to shoot that way because I don't have the spacing, I typically will bring the camera closer and try to get just a real close shot of my item and me, and I just frame it as close as possible, because that is something that happens when you have a small place and you don't have a lot of room. I also try to eliminate this kind of situation. I will also, as much as possible, cause the camera to be as straightforward. So you can see right now, this is straight with my countertop, this board here, but I would typically orient this kind of like this and of course bring the shot in, so that as much as possible, my platform that I'm standing against, and in this case, because the countertop's behind me, I would prefer to bring the camera more straight on, and that helps to eliminate those angles going all over the place. But at the moment, I just wanted to show you guys that before we get into actually shooting the product. That's another little tip to watch out for if you have to get a broader shot of the area. Watch out if your camera is not totally straight on. This is what you're going to have. Are the cupboards, the countertop may not look like it's totally straight. You'll look like your camera is crooked. It's not crooked, but that's what happens when you shoot it at an angle.